I'd like to call the Township Committee meeting to order. Aileen, would you lead us in a flag salute, please?
Attention, salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law by posting a notice on the bulletin board in the municipal building and emailing a copy of the notice along with the agenda of this meeting to the press of Atlantic City, Atlantic County Record, Record Journal, and current newspapers stating this meeting would take place at 6:30 p.m. on Monday, December 15th, 2014, in the municipal building, Mays Landing, New Jersey. Mrs. Dix?
Here.
Ms. Gatto?
Here.
Mr. Gouchard?
Present.
Mrs. Link?
Here.
Mayor Sel?
Here. Thank you. Can we take a moment of silence for private reflection? And during that time, would you keep in your thoughts and prayers, Rodney Gouchard's brother did pass away. Okay, the first item on the agenda is adjourn to executive session. We'll do that at the end of the meeting, and we'll probably have a confirmation of it in public also. Item number 3, addition and deletion of late items for consideration tonight.
So moved.
Second.
The motion is second. Any questions or comments to the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Early public comment on agenda items not listed for public hearings.
Mayor, no one has signed up.
Thank you. Okay, first item on the agenda is discussions. Formal action may be taken. Hamilton Township Municipal Utilities Authority, an update on Park Road construction by Stephen Blankenship, the Executive Director. Steve, would you please? And thank you for coming this evening. Huh?
Flashbacks.
Yeah.
No, I thank you for the invitation to come and tell you a little bit about our project. Basically, obviously, the bulk of the water project is finished except for the Park Road area, and the bulk of the main work is completed. We still need to do a tie-in from Lenape onto Park Road, where the little bridge is there at 5 points. And then the last part would be the tie-in into the Tanglewood main. Currently, right now, what they're doing is they're switching services from the old main to the new main that we put in already. There's approximately 38 services that need to be transferred, and some of that work involves new water meter pits and things along that line also. As of today, they've completed 11 of those water services, so we still have quite a few to go. In talking with the contractor, they're looking to work as quickly as they can to get things in, so they are trying to keep the road open. Today we had school buses go by, and they've moved out of the way to allow those people to go in and out. They're looking to try to bring a second crew on sometime next week to try to continue to get those services in. And probably sometime after the first of the year, they would go ahead and finalize the tie-ins at either end of the water main that I talked about earlier in the day. So we're hoping that they can finalize their project by about the middle part of January with all the services hopefully done by the end of the year.
Steve, in consideration of what they're doing, and is there a settlement period for some of the tie-ins that has to take place?
Well, basically, in the contract, what it calls for, just like most public contracts, we have a maintenance period that they would be responsible for. So in our contract, what it calls for is they're going to come in where the trench is. They're going to mill on either side of that trench, and where the areas that were disturbed for the services and some other test pits. They're going to put base paving down, and then they would be responsible for that base paving through the maintenance period, which is at least a year, probably 2 years. With that, they would be responsible for maintaining that pavement.
Steve, what was the original plan? What did it call for when you laid out the work that had to be done on Park Road there? How much paving will you be responsible to do on that roadway?
Basically, what our plans call for is the trench, the areas that we disturb, plus or minus a foot to either side of those. Now, some of those areas, we might be able to do a little bit more if they're over off to the side of the road, where there's only a little bit left between the trench edge and, say, the edge of the street. We would probably be able to get those. But as far as doing a full restoration of the road, we didn't have that in the budget. Part of the thought was that basically that road is in kind of rough shape anyhow. We have some work that we're doing. The township did some work in there prior. I think the gas company's still doing some other work. But as far as to how we're going to do that road, I'm not sure what your engineering, what you wanted to bring that road back to. So we don't really have anything to restore the whole road or anything like that. We're just looking at
Half
the
of
areas
it?
that we disturbed.
Half of the road?
On this particular case, this job's done under the New Jersey Environmental Infrastructure Trust. That's a loan that we get from the state through the NJDEP. With that, there's certain limitations that we can. It's not really our money. We're borrowing that money. And as we borrow that money, then it, quote, becomes ours. But anything we have to do has to be authorized in turn by the state. So DEP has to agree with that. Now, when we get done all of our work with all the services, then we could probably sit down and try to see exactly what shape the road is in and what could we do at that time. We may have some money left over under this contract. If the state were to allow us to use some of that money to do something, we might be able to do that. But again, it would be contingent upon the state giving us the approval.
Does anybody from the state come out and check the work, or will they?
They come out periodically, not as much as they used to do in the past, but I'm sure by the end of the job, somebody will come out. Usually if we have a question as to any kind of change, we would talk to them at that time also.
Yeah, you understand, we've been getting a lot of inquiries about the roadway, especially the condition of it is,
Right.
and obviously it's been our understanding that when you were completed there sometime later, we would like to do the work that we have planned on that roadway now that the drainage is fixed up ahead, and hopefully all the cuts that are being made in that roadway are finished, because once it's paved, I don't think we want anybody to touch that road anymore.
Right, and then as we talked about
We'll have a
before,
moratorium on it.
about the settlement period. Usually when we do work like this too, if you're really gonna do, some long-term paving, it's best to let that sit for like at least 6 months, because then you really do get whatever settlement that's gonna happen out of the way. We're doing the same thing on a project with the county on Mill Street, where we had to go in and repair some sewer mains on that street. And basically, we're giving it 6 months, and then in the spring, they'll be back to do that final paving for that area.
But while we have you, is that going to be the same for Atlantic Avenue?
Atlantic Avenue, they're supposed to be in actually this week, starting on doing their final paving in that area.
Okay.
And that was one of the things I have talked to the engineer about, where the trench, again, is close to the edge of the road. Can we not go in and do that whole piece of the road rather than leaving like a foot or two between the trench restoration that we do and then the curb?
Okay. Committee, Danny, go ahead.
Yes, several areas have been left with just gravel in the holes. What's happening there?
The contractor was informed about that. I know they did try to come out and patch some of those areas. They have done some of the patching. I'm not saying that patching, I would say that that's okay going forward. I think they still need to come back and work on some of their patches, and they still have some areas that they need to come in and actually put some of the base paving. They really haven't done that. So there's still work that they need to do there.
Is there a time frame of less than 6 months, or 3 months to 4 months? What makes it settle faster?
Well, typically, they try to do a decent job in the compaction, but even with that, over time, you still do get some settlement, and it's basically just that time. The fact that you have traffic going over that helps to some degree, too. And basically, no matter how much you compact, and I'm sure your own engineer can verify some of that, you still wind up getting settlement over time. So typically you try to come back after most of that settlement that's going to occur within that period before you do anything more permanent.
Does anyone go out and test that or, ascertain if it's settled enough, or so we can put this?
To be honest with you, I think that's part of our contract, but I don't want to give you an answer one way or the other without double checking that.
Mr. Mayor, just knowing all the work that the MUA is doing and has to do that you just spoke about, and the work that we want to do, I don't know if maybe Steve or even Bob, if you're the better person to just speak to how you, the MUA, and the township work together so that we're maximizing both of our resources and making sure that the plan makes sense as to all the work that has to get done.
I think one of the things initially, and then I'll turn it over to Bob, is obviously, we want to try to plan to get work done before you redo the road and the curbs that need to go in out there. So with that, we've tried to coordinate a lot of the utilities. I know even when I was back before, that's one of the things that we've talked about was, so we can get in, being the MUA, we can contact the gas company, what work do they have to do. So hopefully all the utilities can get into that area, dig up whatever they need to dig up in order to install their new services and infrastructure. So that way it's done and we don't have to come back, once the road's done, because then you want to put the road under moratorium for a certain period of time, and we really don't want to be in there digging something up. Hopefully we've taken care of all that beforehand.
Yeah, once the roadway's resurfaced, it obviously is subject to the 3-year road opening moratorium. I guess my question would be, what does the final restoration call for in the MUA's contract? Was it just base paving to the surface?
It's just base paving.
It basically comes down to where Park Road is going to fit into the township's next road program as to how long the contractor or the MUA will be required to maintain those trenches. In the contract, maintenance bond is typically 2 years after all work is completed and accepted by the MUA, but it's going to depend on what our time frame is for the work on Park Road.
And is it because of that kind of responsibility stuff in terms of all the contracts and everything that we can't just say, okay, the MUA has this pot of money for Park Road, we have this pot of money for Park Road, we're going to put all that together and pave it at once? We can't do that because of guarantees and things like that have going on at your side.
Part of it is, I don't know where you are at with the engineering of the road, because the way that road is, you might want to re-engineer exactly what kind of slope are you going to have, what's the crown of the road going to be, what are you going to do with your curbs. And really, until you have something like that in place, it's hard to go in. You don't want to pave something and then turn around 2 years later and say, okay, we're doing this, here's our new plan, and all that has to be taken out because
Right,
it doesn't match the plan.
Right.
The other problem is, in the past when we've talked about this, obviously, we all have financial issues that we deal with every day. With the MUA, at one time we had a little bit more money. We don't quite have that money anymore. So again, we're taking advantage of this NJEIT loan, which basically allows us to borrow money at less than 1% for 20 years. But unfortunately, what happens is that's not necessarily our money until we get it from the state. And as I
Right.
mentioned earlier, then you get into a whole set of details as to what will the state allow you.
And all that.
For water main work, they usually only allow you so much of the trench width plus a certain amount on either side. So
Right.
we're trying to maximize that to make it as best we can until we can get down to the township's road program.
Right, okay.
I have
The-
another
the-
question.
Go ahead.
I do too.
About the gas company, have they been actively trying to replace some of the old lines there? Or I understand from a neighbor that used to work for the gas company that there are old lines, for, along Park Road. I don't know if that's
I can't speak for
your...
the gas company, but I think Mr. Smith, if they need road opening permits, that he would probably have more information.
Yeah, I
about
can
it.
answer that question. We just issued a street opening permit to the gas company to replace main in the shoulder that runs in front of your two respective homes. It's going to run from probably around the bridge to Lenape Avenue, and then it's going to tie into Main on Lenape Avenue, not Lenape Avenue, Lake Drive, and tie into Main on Lake Drive. So they are going to replace a significant portion of the main in the roadway.
Are you saying you already signed off on that permit?
That's correct.
Because they've already, remembering that I worked for the gas company and in construction for 6 years is the reason I have a foundational knowledge to ask certain questions. They've already replaced 275 feet in front of my house, I think from the new house, 628 Park Road going southward, 275 feet was replaced 4 or 5 years ago. That's the patch that's in the street now. They have another about 1,000 feet between the end of that 275 back to the bridge, which is what's under design right now. But that doesn't sound like the same project you're talking about, because they don't have to go to Lake Drive. They already have plastic pipe up there. From Marty's house, 628 Park Road, up past Lake Drive is plastic pipe behind curb. But it splits back into the street right where this patch that I'm speaking of. So they're getting ready to come up Park Road, but I don't know the timetable. Actually, you'll probably hear from them soon because it needs to all be worked out. This bare steel pipe is probably like 1930s era, and that's why they get called for the gas leaks, because of the pinholes that are popping.
Right. I'm going from memory. My recollection is that they're going to replace plastic pipe behind the curb from about the bridge up to Lake Drive.
Okay. Well, we'll know something real soon, I'm sure. I know there's another project up around Tunney or Rundle. That might be the one you mentioned with Judy.
They're replacing the main in Rundle Avenue from Park up
To
to
Lake.
Lake. Correct.
The entire length.
The entire length. That will go on the roadway, and we require them to mill and resurface half of the roadway.
Aileen, you have the next item on the agenda
Yeah.
while Steve is here. Do you mind if we ask
No,
him to
no,
stay?
not at all, but I was just going to go back. I knew about the gas company planning on Park Road because the one day there was a man in front of my house. I went and talked to him, and he's, like I am, a retiree from the gas company. So, Steve, the other part I had listed as Park Road issues because there's a multitude of issues to consider. One is not for your benefit, but we do have, and Mr. Percy, I don't know if he's out there tonight or not. Yeah, I see him. The sidewalk ordinance that he always trumpets. We have an obligation, since we enforce it on other people, we have an obligation, and I brought this up in March of 2011 as a citizen. We have an obligation to put sidewalk along the 500 feet of the curb, of the cove, when we do the paving and we do the curbing. We have that obligation because we enforce it on everybody else. So a lot of people think we should put sidewalk the entire length of Park Road because of the amount of foot traffic on it, but I can't advocate that cost at this point. But at least for the property we own that we have control of, I think we should do that. The other part of the issue is I understood the paving program for 2015 was going to be the Park Road paving, which then I was told it's not. It's going to be 2016. So I was hoping we'd pin that down. And then the issue of, I saw a kid on a 20-inch bike crash in the street over the last 2 weeks because of the condition of the road, which is what brings it to the forefront. How can you plan a triathlon on Park Road with bikes racing and foot racing the entire length of Park Road if it hasn't been fully repaved? I think that the hazard conditions that exist and the liability that come on us, I don't care how much insurance anybody posts, as Zlotnick used to sit over there as the solicitor and say the door to the courthouse is always open. And if we don't evaluate this and make a decision soon so the triathlon knows whether they can or cannot, and if they cannot, is there another way to shift it to a different location around the lake? That's the option that needs to happen. I think fair's fair and advance notice is.
What's the date of it, Aileen? Do you have?
It's usually the second Saturday in July, whatever that date might be. But I don't think that there's any way the road will be completely done by July 1, and that's the reason. We don't need bikes crashing all over and people falling. So those are basically the points I wanted to bring up. About the sidewalk, I believe we have an absolute obligation at the Cove to put in a sidewalk. Whether we can do it in-house or not, I don't know, because we do have a highly skilled masonry contractor now on our staff. The issue of when are we going to decide, because the 2015 paving program is right here, Park Road, 3,696 feet in length was what we intended in 2015, and then the issue about the triathlon for safety reasons.
Michael? would you sometime this week reach out to people from the triathlon and just tell them about what's happening on Park Road if they don't already know? And also tell them that they may or may not have to consider an alternate route, just pending on the fact that, because I don't think it's going to be paid by the NA Lane.
That's
Just
why I
given-
want to bring it
given
up.
what they're- Yeah, and I think it's a good point.
I mean, they advertise by February
Yeah.
to start signing people up, and so I think
That's short.
we're 2 months ahead of that, and fair's fair. It's a courtesy on our part. If it can't happen,
Well,
this is
I
the
agree.
fair way to do it.
I agree. Anything else?
That's all I'm thinking of on the issues that I wanted to get on the
Okay.
table.
First of all, thank you for coming this evening.
If I just want one more thing. Basically, when we get done in January, on behalf of the MUA, what we'd like to do is reach out to your engineer and to your township administrator and sit down and kind of review where we're at, see what kind of funds we have left over, and see what kind of permissions that we could work out with the state and try to come up with something that would assist in this endeavor.
Partner.
But basically, like I said, I don't really want to do that until we get done and we see what we run into. But at that point, we really would like to reach out, sit down as a group there and see what we can try to do at that time.
But maybe we can partner in on the gas company if we involve them in, just like they partnered in on the city of Ventnor. And if it could be a triangular partnership, that would even be better, because everybody's money would go further to the extent that you're allowed to do anything.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, you mentioned the state, would there be any advantage in having the county involved in this also?
It's not a county road, so
I
I don't know
understand.
if the county would really be involved in that part.
No, I don't think so, Steve.
Okay, just,
No, but that's a good point, Rodney, just always checking to see.
Steve, you mentioned about, speaking of county roads, Mill Street. I've had some complaints about the conditions at this point with the potential of snow plowing going to start. Do you think you could see if the contractor can get any more cold patch or anything over there?
I know we put some in for him the other day, a couple weeks ago, but we will follow up.
All right.
That is a long-term bond. The county requires a 5-year bond for their work, so, you know, if the contractor doesn't participate, we do have options to go back. But again, the county gave the okay when we stopped for the temporary paving that he did. And so we're hoping when we get into the spring that he'll be out first thing and we can get that section that we worked on paved to their standards and kind of be done with it other than the maintenance after that.
Thank you, Steve, and thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
I just have one more quick, Steve, when they go to do the paving on Atlantic Avenue, could you just let me know so I can meet out there with you when we go over the limits? Please.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
okay.
Before I go to the next item on the agenda, I just want to recognize the fact that at the last meeting, we had a moment of silence for John Kurtz, and evidently your prayers have been doing well because he's sitting in the back of the audience tonight. Committee man-elect John. I'm not sure whether it was the prayers or the cider donuts that got you to this point, but you're doing well, John. Good to see you up and around. Next item on the agenda is C, is correspondence from West Bay Two Partners LLC and DeAnastasio Corp., Reed Tavistock, and Mays Landing. Mr. Solicitor, please.
Yes. I received a letter from an attorney representing West Bay Partners LLC.
Mr. Sandman, could you please speak directly into the mic?
John, you're going to need that thing with the big,
Yep.
I received a letter from the attorney for West Bay Partners 2 LLC, who is one of the developers of the Tavistock at Mays Landing. And they were requesting that because they are no longer operating, that the township be involved in snow plowing and other issues with respect to the streets in that development. And they somewhat offered, that the township would be allowed to lien the remaining lots that are owned by those developers for snow plowing and for maintenance. It has been the position of the township in the past that until such time as these developments are completed and the performance bond is released and the roads are accepted, that the township would not take any maintenance obligations or snow plowing, but for unusual circumstances. It is my opinion that you should continue that process. We do not, as of today's date, own the road. It has not had its top coat put on, so there's a 2-inch gap between water mains and protrusions in the street, which make plowing susceptible to further damage. We are in the process of negotiating with the bonding company to improve and complete that development. I believe that any damages that would be caused by us going in there and maintaining or plowing would hinder those negotiations. And although they are offering a lien with respect to the cost of that, as I outlined in a memo, an email to each of you, why buy a foreclosure suit? We have enough of them. My opinion is that with respect to this request, you should continue the past practices as you've had. And even if you were to accept the offer, as I point out, the attorney's fees and costs could actually exceed the cost of snow removal. So for those 5 reasons, it is my opinion that you should decline the offer and treat this development as you do every other one, and take on no maintenance or snow clearing responsibilities until you have to.
They might be better off consulting with their attorney and leaning the lots themselves, since they have other issues in there.
Possibility.
How does the committee feel about this?
So with us out of it, then it will fall on the people we received the letter from, or will it fall on the homeowners association?
It won't fall on us.
Okay,
That's my bottom line.
but the roads have to get plowed at some point
And
by
how
someone.
that happens is a function of some sort of negotiation between the developer who's no longer in the picture and the association.
Okay,
My gut would tell me the association would have to pay at the forefront and seek their remedies elsewhere.
okay.
Does everyone agree with the attorney's recommendation?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's
Do we
fair.
need a vote on it?
I would suggest that you pass a resolution denying the request.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Bob, it's unanimous. Thank you. Okay. Next item is appointment of the Green Team effective December 16th through December the 31st, 2015. Rodney?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think as many of you know who have attended these meetings over the last 2 or 3 months, there has been a lot of work toward developing a green team. Green team is one of the requirements for participation in Sustainable New Jersey. Sustainable New Jersey is a statewide nonprofit organization that promotes practices to improve the sustainability across the board within the state. And that has to do with recycling, with renewable energy, with a number of items. And in fact, in the state, we have the majority of municipalities, and I think the latest number is probably higher by now, is 473 of the municipalities that are either participating or have an application to participate in Sustainable New Jersey. We have a group here, as many of you know, who have been active in this area for several months, and they have requested that we establish a green team. I personally think it's a great idea, and I applaud the fact that we have so many people that are enthusiastic about establishing such a team. I think at the last meeting, we discussed this, and we concluded that we wanted to make sure there was an opportunity for others to submit an application. We also had a discussion, there was a recommendation that we have 3-year, 2-year, and 1-year terms. However, since that, the attorney has indicated that since this is a resolution, they can only be 1-year terms, which I don't have any problem with, because we can certainly relook at this the next year. So we have a proposal for the resolution. We have a number of names, and essentially they're the names of the people that submitted applications. I think all the committee members have the names, but I will read them out if you need.
Yeah,
We
just
need to get them onto the resolution.
Okay. And you know, I think I walked out and left the resolution on the tape, on my.
Well, Rodney, these are the names that I had. I think these would all go into the citizen.
Well, I can read them out. I have the names. I was
Oh,
going to read
okay.
the resolution, which.
Oh, no, I don't think we need to read the
All right,
resolution.
okay, that's fine. The names are Sue Marks, Susan Lazarczyk, I hope I pronounced that properly,
Lazarczyk.
Carol Dupre, Fran Saravia, Jenny Ayers, Michelle Bellinger, and Ingrid
Perez?
Perez.
Who's the commercial business sector item?
And the educational interest, those were my
I was
questions.
just going one at a time.
The commercial business
Business sector
section.
representative.
Ingrid is saying that Sue Marks is on the Mays Landing Merchants Association.
Yeah, but she
Okay.
doesn't have a business. She
All
doesn't have
right,
does she have a business? Sue Marks?
Ingrid, if you're going to talk, would you come up here thank you.
I mean,
Jenny could be the education.
It was in the interest of starting to round out the membership of the Green Team that I had suggested that we add those types of representation with the idea that Sue Marks, who is on the Mays Landing Merchants Association, would be able to represent some of the local business interests in town for some of those initiatives. And then I know that we also want to be working with the schools, so we thought somebody with an education background. I know that Jenny has that. She's over at ACCC, so that might fit that requirement.
okay.
So, and this may morph, we may decide next year with the resolution to have some other representations, or as the group grows, they may have other suggestions, but this was an initial suggestion I had.
Okay.
All right,
So-
thank you.
I was thinking maybe Robert Baum, I know he has been involved in the committee as a whole,
We have 2 open slots.
and he is a artist by trade. He sells his art work, so he is a commercial.
So
Well,
we have 6 applications in, right?
We have 6 applications plus
And there's
Ingrid
7
Perez.
lines here.
And Ingrid Perez would be the 7th member. That's, certainly you're allowed to have a township,
No, she's number
Yes.
8 and you're number 9.
I'm the liaison.
Right.
There were
that's-
questions as we developed this as to whether it would be appropriate for myself or Rodney to be voting members. I believe we've since had the word that it would be okay for me to be a voting member.
Yes.
So the makeup is at your pleasure. If you want 7 or 5 or 9,
Yeah,
That's-
Try to
I
add
thought
more,
part
you
of-
can always add it at a later date.
Yeah.
exactly, you could do
yeah.
that too.
As far as I'm concerned, the membership should be open. I think what we're talking about here are the voting members, more or less,
Okay.
that are required. But we'd like to encourage everyone that can to participate
Yeah.
and join the team.
I think, Ingrid, I see where you're going with like categorizing the membership. I think maybe that's something we should do in 2016.
That was my thought.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just
so-
because, I don't know if the Merchant Association is gonna be our business sector people, if they should pick who the person's gonna be representing them.
It's
so-
possible. Those are all ideas.
Yeah.
There's a variety of initiatives, and the program itself lends itself to networking
Right.
amongst community partners a lot, so it may develop from there, but.
So can we just cross out those parentheses then from the, resolution?
For the time being?
Yeah, so that way next year maybe that'll be part of the Green Team's charges to kind of figure out, who are the different elements that they need on the team, and we can categorize them in the future.
Mr.
Well,
S-
there's only supposed to be 7 voting members. If Ingrid is going to go in as a voting member, then one of the citizen representatives has to drop out. We need to change this resolution. Resolution is clear that it says 7 Hamilton Township residents as the voting members, and ex officio municipal employee and a township committee person. So
See, I read 7 names, I thought.
You read
Go.
6 names
6 names plus Ingrid.
I didn't write Michelle Bellinger down. That's the one I missed.
plus
Plus
Ingrid, right?
But Ingrid
which is
can't because-
7. Oh,
Ingrid
Ingrid,
can't, because then you have to change the resolution that I
Right.
just cited.
So we're gonna appoint 6 tonight, and we have an opening.
That's fine.
Now, Mr. Sandman, can we just take them collectively?
Yes.
Yes.
So we're moving the resolution with the names in,
With the name.
with the
That-
6 names
that's-
and 1 opening.
that's what I would move to do,
Mazurchik,
yes.
Dupre, Saravia, Bellinger, Marks, Ayers, Perez, and Gouchard.
Well, I would be the
Yeah, but,
liaison.
no, but it's on the document.
I-
You don't have yours with you, that's why I'm trying to go by the instructions.
Okay, the
I-
town-
Script.
I will move the resolution with the 6 names that Mr. Gouchard read into the record, with the understanding that there's 1 opening, and then with Ingrid and Rodney as stated on the resolution.
Okay, second?
A motion and a second. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Good
All
luck to
right,
the Green Team.
thank you. We expect,
Mark me as abstain, I did not vote.
You didn't vote at all?
No, I didn't.
So it's 4-1.
So you're passing?
No, I
She
abstained.
abstained- she abstained.
I thought it was going to be a
What you
roll
said.
call, so I'm writing my notes, and I didn't vote, so I'll abstain.
Okay,
we're looking for great things, and thank you for your efforts.
congratulations, everyone. Okay, next item is the reassessment update by the assessor. Mr. Johnson's going to be late this evening, and we thought he probably could be here 7:30 or not in that time frame because he had another commitment tonight. And we did ask him to come and explain. In fact, here he comes.
man.
Bill, come on down front.
What timing?
You got the prize.
Mr. Mayor, since I asked for this
Sure.
agenda item, if I may, Bill, thanks for being here so timely. I did ask for this item to be put on the agenda because the letters have gone out to all of our citizens with regard to the reassessment that we've done this year. And I'm hoping maybe, Bill, you can just give some background as to, again, why we did the reassessment, and then also kind of explain what people may or may not be seeing. The biggest question that I've been getting from friends, neighbors, has been, my assessment went down, but my taxes went up. What the heck's going on? And I, of course, tout the great work that we've done as a municipality in not raising taxes, and that the county and schools, have been contributing there, but also trying to explain the assessment process and how the calculation is affected. So I thought it would be good to kind of get that on the record for people to understand in more layman's terms that they might not get out of the letter.
I'll do my best to explain.
Great.
Bill, and
Thanks,
the other
Bill.
thing I thought of, even though this is not a public session, what I would like, though, and I would permit it as long as committee agrees, generic questions, not individual letters. If you have a question about it that you felt he didn't cover, we'll entertain it tonight.
I think that's a good idea.
Okay, go ahead, Bill.
A little bit of background. The reason that we did the reassessment, we did the revaluation in 2010. It went on the books in 2011. So we were kind of at the peak of the declining market, just going over the hump and going down. We continue to do some compliance plans. Some of our developments, particularly condominium developments, some of our single-family home developments, continue to see drastic declines. So we did compliance plans that the committee approved. We were able to adjust those assessments due to a number of appeals and also market value. The governing body, based on my suggestion, agreed to do a reassessment of the entire town rather than just kind of put out fires, if you will, by way of compliance plans.
And that was tax appeal fires, right? Like lots of tax appeals coming in
Right, so
from certain
just,
areas.
I'll use one example, Woodlands condominium development. Height of the market just prior to putting values on for the revaluation. Some of the three-bedroom townhouse units in there were selling in the $160,000 to $170,000. Shortly thereafter, those same units were selling for $30,000 to $40,000.
Lisa, can you hear him? No. Would you speak into the mic then?
Closer to the mic. I think he had tilted maybe more.
Okay.
Man, we're really putting you on the test tonight, Bill.
You didn't even give me a chance to get my jacket
I
off or
know.
anything.
That's what Judy just said.
But you look comfortable.
You do
so
look comfortable.
relax.
Okay.
A quick exit. You can make a quick exit.
Promise?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Did everybody hear up to the point of the Woodlands, or? Okay.
Yep.
So that was just one example why we were doing the compliance plans and making those reductions. And we were getting not a large amount of appeals, but we were getting enough appeals to cause alarm. And in order to basically lessen our burden in the following year by getting mass appeals, we would do the compliance plans and reduce those values ahead of time.
And that helps the township from a budgeting perspective because
It helps the
it's
township.
not unanticipated at this point.
Right,
Right.
right. Once we set that book, we have to pay the county, we have to pay the schools. Even
Right.
if there's a tax appeal filed, we, the township, eat 100% of that tax refund.
Correct.
The county does give a credit back by way of equalization
year.
in the following year, but the schools, which is the biggest part of the tax burden, we end up, the municipality eats that 100%.
Right.
Excuse me, is that a full credit? It's not a full credit, is it? From the county?
Yes, it is.
It is a full credit.
Yeah, it's a full credit by way of equalization. So what they do is it's, say we owe $2 million and we had $200,000 in tax appeals, county taxes in tax appeals the year before. They take the $200,000 off of that $2 million burden, and then they
Right.
equalize the value based on
Okay,
that.
very good.
That was how we ended up getting to the reassessment. Putting out those fires, we decided, I thought it would be best to do the entire town. I guess it was about a year or so ago, I came before the governing body, did a brief presentation, the governing body approved it, which is what put the reassessment in place. One of the things, the letter is just a bit confusing because it is an impact letter.
Right.
I thought it very important, if you read some of the press articles, the most recent town and closest would have been Galloway Township. Last year, they did a reassessment very similar to what we just completed. They didn't include what the tax implications would be of that reassessment. Very few people bothered to question the reassessment, their new value until they got their tax bill, which basically I've never seen any community actually go in mass to school board meetings. It's the first time I've ever seen that.
Maybe we should have done that.
So
Good point.
I chose to do an impact letter. Now, in the impact letter, it's going to tell you what your 2014 assessment was, which is going to be the top line, your 2014 annual taxes, what your 2014 tax bill was.
Actually was.
On the third line, it's going to tell you what your new assessed value is. Now, here's where it gets confusing for people. We don't know what the 2015 budget is going to be. So what we're doing is we're taking the 2014 budget and applying your new assessed value. Now, that will come up, that will actually create a new tax rate.
Right.
Okay, so what we're saying is if your new assessment was in place for 2014, based on the 2014 budget, your taxes would have been X.
Right.
Right. And I do emphasize, stress that that is just an estimate.
So can you explain, because
How
I
can-
think what people don't understand is, so my assessment changes, my tax bill change, why? And what I try to explain is the assessed value of our rateable base overall went down.
Correct.
The amount that we're collecting in taxation is the same.
Mhm.
It's just gonna get chopped up differently now based on the new tax rate, so it becomes a new multiplier.
Correct.
How do we get to the new multiplier?
Okay.
And also, what impact will Atlantic City and the county have on that?
I
Can't answer that
wish I knew.
To that
I
now.
wish I knew.
That's in
If I
addition to
knew that,
this.
I wouldn't be standing here. I'd be a millionaire retired someplace. Not to make fun of it, but.
No, I understand.
We just,
That's
we
an
don't know
unknown,
at
though.
this point, and we're not going to know until the 2015 budgeting process is completed. Right.
Or until we see the book of ratables for the entire county and see what percentages are assigned, and then we're gonna have an idea by January 15th or 20th if everybody files by January 10th as they're supposed to.
Files their books correct.
Files their books with the county by January 10th, and we see everybody's ratables increase or decrease, and the assignment of the percentages across the board from all 23 municipalities, we're gonna have an idea of what kind of a shift is happening.
Right. What's
You
gonna
agree?
Actually.
Did you agree with that?
That's part of it, yes. But
Agree,
the
it's
biggest-
part of it.
It's part of it, but the biggest factor in that's going to be what are the tax court appeal judgments that were rendered during
That's a great
the
point.
year when they get applied through equalization.
Yes.
Okay.
That's going to be a big factor. That's actually going to be the biggest factor.
But those numbers are known now, aren't they? The tax court has already decided, or they will continue to decide till December 31st.
Yes, they will, but I don't have access to what Atlantic City's tax.
No,
court-
understood.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
understand
so I
that, but the
don't have
tax
those-
court can continue making decisions up to December 31st that will affect the rateable base for Atlantic City for January 10th and the impact of these stipulations that, or what was the word you used? It wasn't stipulation.
Judgments?
Judgments.
Yes. Yeah, so we won't know that for some time to come.
And people should understand also that, as you mentioned, we don't know what our 2015 budget is. Hopefully, there won't be much of a change, but that would have an impact on the final rate also. So if someone looks at that later on and sees there's a slight difference, that's the reason why.
Right, right. And Hamilton Township's been very good in the last 3 to 4 years, I think.
Yes.
I think we've reduced our budget every year.
Yes.
Have.
Yes.
So can you come back home and talk about how a lower assessment affects a new tax rate?
If your assessment was reduced and we didn't do a reassessment, no values were changed in the town other than your value, yes, your assessment went down, you would see a tax decrease. In a reassessment, what you have to bear in mind is it's revenue neutral. We're not creating new revenue by doing a reassessment. What does happen is, in this instance, most values in the town declined. So the value of the town goes down. When the value of the town goes down, it's almost like a slide scale. The tax rate will go up to collect the same amount of money.
Correct.
So just using the simplest math I can think of that everybody can kind of follow along. If you had a $4 million rateable base in a town and a tax rate of $2 and the average assessed value of a home was $175,000, that would be a $3,000 tax bill based on that information. Now, just say property values decline severely and you do a reassessment for the following year and you reduce them by 50%. Again, trying to keep the math as simple as possible.
So the 4 million goes to 2 million?
4 million goes to 2 million.
Okay.
The average assessed home goes to 75,000. The tax rate would go up to $4. Now, that's factoring the budget remaining exactly the same from the year before. You would still pay the same amount in taxes.
Right. The township as a whole will pay the same amount of taxes, but me individually, my slice might change.
Your slice might change.
Right.
But again, under this scenario, your tax burden would remain exactly the same if everybody was uniformly adjusted. the same
Exactly.
amount.
Right. Okay.
I did hear that Atlantic City voted to do a revow. I think their expenditures
just
close to $1
appropriated
million.
the funds, but they haven't awarded a
900 and some odd
contract as of
thousand,
yet,
right.
yes.
Bill, the way I looked at it is I have sat here for 3 years and watched the ratables continue to slide downward and using whole numbers, not partial numbers. In 2012, each penny of the tax rate raised $238,000. A year later, it dropped $2,500. In 2013, it was $236,000. This past year, after the compliance plan, we were at $227,000. And I asked, what's the per penny? I got it from the finance office. What's per penny proposed for 2015 based on the numbers as we know them, which are not final, the decrease of 178 million plus or minus. In the rateable base, we're looking at under $210,000 per penny. So it's about a $16,000, $17,000 decrease per penny is the money we've lost because of the declined values. So I don't know what that translates into, how many pennies increase on the tax rate that we'll have to hit in order to hold the same level of budget dollars.
Right.
That's a pending issue, and what can be done about it? In time will tell, because we have to wait to get past January 10th and see the rateable sharing there.
Right, right. And, the hope is that, the values will be good and hold true for a couple of years, that as we do added assessments for property.
We have to build
that-
something first.
Well,
and there's
we-
nothing
we
hap-
still do- We still do have residential, we still do have additions and stuff like that being
But it's insignificant. Compared to the tax appeals, it's insignificant.
Well, if it offsets the tax appeals, which
That's
we
an
haven't
even.
had that. It's offset and then some the last several years. And if we hadn't done the compliance plans, we'd be bonding for tax refunds. So we've been very fortunate. We
Just like Galloway.
Hamilton Township is one of the few municipalities in Atlantic County, especially the larger municipalities, that
With a reserve?
we've had a reserve. Most of the stuff has been taken care of by way of the compliance plans.
And
We
that's
haven't-
thanks to your leadership,
Yeah,
Bill,
we,
so.
we haven't had to go out and bond for tax refunds.
Right.
Bill, back in the 90s and from 2001 to 2010, am I remembering, we were having like 40 to 50 million a year in added assessments during that period of time?
Right up until about 2009, yes, we were averaging anywhere from 40 to 50 million dollars a year, yes.
So, and for the benefit of the folks out here, added assessments means new structures being built on lands to create new assessments.
That's correct.
So from 2009 to now, what has happened in terms of added assessments?
Added assessments have declined.
Didn't we have 13,000 last year? Wasn't that the number for 2014? 13?
I believe it was about 13 million.
$13 million, and that was wiped out with tax appeals,
That was-
and plus more.
Correct, yes. You're absolutely,
Thank you.
right, yeah. But most of the values now going forward, hopefully the market will start to settle just a bit. We didn't hit 100%.
In the reassessment, we're still not at 100%?
I anticipated a continuing decline in the market. We actually hit about 95%.
90 what, Bill?
95.
95? Interesting.
And so the,
You have to take into consideration what's going on in Atlantic City.
No
The
question.
unemployment rate, the foreclosures, that all has to be taken into consideration.
Had an impact. It's yet to come, the impact.
No question, I agree with you, 100%.
Yes.
100%.
Now-
The worst is coming at us.
Is there anybody in the audience that has a question to ask of Mr. Johnson? Please keep in mind that if you do have any, Bill, they have been calling you
I have a question,
people,
Roger.
right? Go ahead.
I'm not sure the folks out there understand what a compliance plan is, but am I generally correct when I say that because you did these compliance plans, you equalized values to market values to avoid subsequent tax appeals? Is that a correct statement?
Yes, it is, yes.
And in so doing, A, you were being fair to the people, because that's your job. But B, we have budgeted such that we still have a reserve where most of the towns in Atlantic County don't. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
So through our initiative, despite dramatic decreases in added assessments, despite rampant increases in foreclosures, we've still remained stable. We're at 95%.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes. Yeah.
It's remarkable.
It is.
We've been proactive over the last 4 to 5 years in the process. The assessments should never really remain stagnant, just like the real estate market. I mean, the real estate market doesn't remain what it is last year, this year. It's constantly changing. The
Right.
assessment should change as well. In fact, that is something that will be coming, is the assessors are going to be doing that. That's something that's in the pipeline, and that will be forthcoming.
Mr. Campbell.
Yes, Bob Campbell, Hamilton Township. Bill,
He has to go on the mic.
in the event that a taxpayer within the community or a homeowner in the community gets his new evaluation as
Assessment.
prescribed, and they're not happy with that particular assessment that you've given, even though most of them have been lowered, we still have the opportunity to appeal those assessments.
Yeah, anybody who is not happy with their assessment, disagrees with it, you can still call professional property appraisers. The reason that the letter states the 12th It's to spur you to act now, not wait till January, not wait till February. We want you to act now. Call, make an appointment, somebody will sit down. They are still manning the phones, even though it is after December 12th. If anybody wishes to call, they will gladly accept your call. They will schedule an appointment for you. As far as your right to appeal, if you meet with somebody and you're still not happy with the outcome of that, this year, 2015, you do have a right to appeal. The deadline is extended for this year and this year only, the 2015 year, because of the reassessment. It will be extended to May 1st.
It is normal, the end of October is the end of the year for appeal.
October 1.
When you make an appeal, you have to use the year past for your, okay, you know what I mean? So, but if you received your new assessment after that date, you're telling me now that that's extended?
The value is for 2015, okay? So that's notice of what your new assessment's going to be. You'll still get the green postcard that'll go out on February 1st. Because we're doing a reassessment that's going on the books for 2015, the April 1st deadline is extended to May 1st, this year and this year only. The October date would be the date, the valuation date. You're going to use sales from October 1, 2013 up to October 1, 2014 for setting assessments in 2015.
Okay, so the last question I have then is, normally, if you were appealing your assessment, you would usually use the deadline of the end of October for that year's assessment.
No. The deadline meaning the sales?
Yes.
Well, the sales you would use from the same date range, October 1, 2013 to October 1, 2014 would be the date range that you would look for sales to use in an appeal.
Okay, so the last question is, you now, if you've gotten the new assessment and you're unhappy with the new assessment, you will have until May to appeal them if you wish to, but in the meantime, you're having hearings here with the company that did the reevaluation.
That is correct. You do have the opportunity to call, make an appointment with professional property appraisers to sit down, and they call it informally discuss your assessment. If you're unhappy with that, February 1st, you will get your notice of property assessment. It's a little green postcard that you get every year. Most people think it's for filing of income tax, but it's not to be used for income tax. You would then have until May 1st to file a formal appeal with the county tax board.
And Bill,
The reason why I'm asking these questions is because there's a lot of people that ask me, they were confused, and very frankly, I was a little confused too, exactly what the procedure was. I can understand it, but the appeal process is still available to anybody in the community, and that they can come in and talk to you at any time, and try to get as many people in to talk about it now, so that we're not flooded with appeals coming up this year.
That's why we have the informal review process, and that's why.
You're welcome. And Bob, you also have the rerun of the meetings too to correct those dates in your mind. When you watch the rerun of the meetings, you'll have the dates corrected in your mind. Bill, go ahead.
Yes. We do have some of them that were returned by the post office for one reason or another. If you give my office a call with your block and lot number, we can look and see if it was one of the ones that was returned. But they were mailed on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving.
They were mailed to owners of record of the property.
Yes, they were mailed to the record owner of the property, yes.
Bill, thank you. Thank you for coming tonight. I appreciate your candid remarks, and
No problem.
I know if anybody has any questions, Bill's always available.
Yeah, if anybody does have any questions or anything like that, you can always call the tax assessor's office, 625-1671. If we're not able to answer your question, then we'll gladly make an appointment with you. You come in, sit down, we'll go over everything with you personally.
Okay?
Mike, maybe we could even ask Steve to put this piece of explanation on the website video for people to easily click and see if they have questions if they're visiting the website.
Good.
Thank Bill.
Thanks, Bill, I appreciate
Appreciate
it.
it.
And thank you, Amy, for putting on the agenda.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda is item 6, public hearing ordinances. A, 1779, 2014, amending Chapter 238, property maintenance to be consistent with Public Law 2014.
What's that?
What?
No, you have to pay to get out.
You're free to go, Bill. Yeah,
If I were you, I'd get out while the
yeah, get out while the getting's good,
You
Bill.
didn't take your jacket off, so have good, Bill.
See you, Bill. Good job.
Any questions?
Take care. Thanks again, Bill.
No problem.
Okay, this is a public hearing. Does anyone in the public wish to comment on this?
This is the zombie ordinance, right? Zombie
Yep.
property ordinance.
It's a public hearing. Anyone in the public wish to comment?
Move to close the public portion.
Second.
Motion is second. Any questions or comment? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Move to adopt.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments on that? Mrs. Anderson, roll call, please.
Mrs. Dix,
Yes?
Ms. Gatto,
Yes.
Mr. Gouchard,
Yes.
Mrs. Link,
Yes.
and Mayor Silver.
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Thank you. Item B, 1781, 2014, vacating the rights of the public in a portion of the alley between 12th and 13th Street, Block 785, and consolidating lots 2 through 5 of Block 785 for the municipal auxiliary parking lot. It's a public hearing. Does anyone in the public wish to comment on this?
Move to close the public portion.
Second.
Motion is second. Any questions or comments? Mrs. Anderson, roll call, please.
That was just
All in favor?
to close it.
All in favor?
Yeah, that
All
was
in
just a
favor?
motion
Oh,
to
to
close.
close, yes.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you for correcting me.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion is second. Questions or comments? Mrs. Anderson, please.
Mrs. Dix?
Yes.
Ms. Gatto,
Yes.
Mr. Gouchard?
Yes.
Mrs. Link,
Yes.
Mayor Silver?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Thank you. Number 7, award, rejection, extension of contracts. A, awarded 2014 milling and patching contract to Landenberg Construction LLC, Mays Landing, New Jersey, in the amount of $154,596.40, as recommended by Robert J. Smith III, Township Engineer, on December the 4th. Funding from Capital Bond Ordinances 1713, 2012, and 1748, 2013.
Question. Can we have a list of the streets?
There are 2 streets. It is Holly Street and a section of Malaga Road.
Holly, between what and what?
Holly from Route 50 to Cologne.
Great.
I think there were 37 locations on Holly Street,
If
if
you're right, you'll
memory
notice
serves
them.
me correct.
I was on it today. And the second one is Malaga Road?
Correct.
And that's the part that's not covered by the state grant?
It starts at the transition between what will be phases 3 and 4, and it runs down to approximately Belmont Avenue, I believe.
Where does
Okay.
it start?
It starts at the end of the previously paved section.
You'd see it if you wrote it.
Okay.
Fill it too, probably.
What's your pleasure?
Move to award.
Second?
Motion is second. Any questions or comments? Mrs. Anderson, a roll call, please.
Mrs. Dix?
Yes?
Ms. Gatto,
Yes.
Mr. Gouchard,
Yes.
Mrs. Link,
Yes.
Mayor Silver? All yes and carried.
Thank you. B, reject VOB bid for 2014-14 for janitorial services on the basis of an unreasonable price received from the sole bidder in accordance with Section 14-5C of Ordinance 1765, 2014, and authorized bidding for janitorial services on an unrestricted basis as recommended by the CFO.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any questions or comments? Mrs. Anderson?
Mrs. Dix?
Yes?
Ms. Gatto,
Yes.
Mr. Gouchard,
Yes.
Mrs. Link,
Yes.
Mayor Silva?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Thank you. C, authorize extension of contracts on a month-to-month basis or until a new contract is awarded as recommended by the CFO. Bob, can I take all of these together, or do I have to take them individually?
Let's take them individually.
Okay, number one, Tri-County Animal Control, Animal Cruelty Services, 2011-06.
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Do I need a roll call on this? Yes, Anderson?
Mrs. Dix?
Yes.
Ms. Gatto?
Yes.
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mayor Silver?
Yes. Number two, G Mechanical Inc., Licensed Plumber Services, 2011-2014.
So
So
moved.
moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Questions or comments? Mrs. Anderson, roll call.
GE
Mrs. Dix?
Yes.
Ms. Gatto?
Yes.
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mayor Silver?
Yes.
All yes.
Three, Warner Construction, Skilled Carpentry Services, 2011-07.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Questions or comments? Mrs. Anderson, please.
Mrs. Dix?
Yes.
Ms. Gatto?
Yes.
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mayor Silver?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Item four, Warner Construction Property Maintenance Services, 2012-2013.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Dix?
Yes.
Ms. Gatto?
Yes.
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mayor Silver?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Five, Stanches Tree Stump Removal and Tree Trimming, 2012-2018.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Questions or comments? Roll call.
Mrs. Dix?
Yes.
Ms. Gatto?
Yes.
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mayor
Yes.
Silver? All yes and carried.
Number six, Action Janitorial Inc., Janitorial Services, 2014-04.
So
So
moved.
moved.
Second.
Motion is-
Question. Regarding number 6, back to number 2, all of them need to provide insurance certificates for January 1. Are we having them pulled in?
Michael?
Whatever the contractual requirements are at the beginning of the contract will carry forward for this month to month.
But these things are expiring, and since this was not necessarily anticipated, it might not be on the front burner, and this is triggered by something I've been reviewing. So that's why I'm asking the question. I should have asked it at number 2, not number 6,
The answer is yes as to all of them. one
that they
through
need to
six.
file.
Whatever the obligations were at the beginning of the contract,
They
to
hold.
provide insurance, it will be renewed for the month-to-month renewal until such time as new bids are received.
All right.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Dix?
Yes.
Ms. Gatto?
Yes.
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mayor Silver?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Okay, the consent agenda.
Well, Mr. Mayor, while we're doing awards of contracts, if we could take item 8F individually.
Sure.
This is to authorize state contract purchase of radio equipment for the Township's Radio P25 project from Tactical Public Safety, West Berlin, at a cost of $506,374.10. And this goes back to our trial program on the new investment of radios as recommended by our ESAB board. What's the matter?
No, this was the police.
The transition, the migration, so that we can continue communicating with the county.
To the
Right.
800.
I can't hear
Oh,
you.
okay,
Say it
right,
again.
right, right.
Say it again.
It's a migration project so that our system can continue to communicate with the county. Chief, am I
Right.
correct?
This isn't the one that has to do with the firemen having trouble with communications?
We just put out the trial on that.
Right.
We'll
The
be back.
800 megahertz.
Yeah, I got it confused.
That's quite all right. Go ahead. What's your pleasure?
I made the motion.
You made it
Second.
from- to what, Ada?
For just
8F.
8F.
Just for 8F?
Yes.
You have a motion? Any questions or comments? Mrs. Anderson, we need a roll call on that.
The solicitor was asking me something. What? who made-
8F, we're doing a roll call.
they're
We're just
doing
doing
F?
8F roll call
8F
now.
by
We'll come
itself.
back to the
All
consent.
by itself, all right. And Amy made the motion?
And I seconded it.
Oh, God. Mrs. Dix?
Yes.
Ms. Gatto?
Yes.
Mr. Gouchard?
Yes.
That's quite all right.
Mrs. Link?
Who? Link?
Link.
Yes.
Mayor Silva?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Okay, now the consent agenda.
Yeah, I'll move 8A through P, obviously minus F, minus O from the deletion, and including the changes and additions on our late agenda.
Have a motion?
Second.
Has said motion is second.
Judy seconded, Joan.
Any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
Roger, wait up on the motion in a second. I don't know if Joan got it, but
it's
I
on
didn't
here.
catch it. Did you get the motion in the second on the consent agenda?
Ms. Gatto and
Link.
Mrs. Link?
Thank you.
You okay now?
Yep.
Okay, item 9, personnel. Appoint Stephen Jensen, a full-time police officer at the pre-academy salary of $30,600 effective January the 5th.
So moved.
Second.
A motion is second. Any questions or comments? May I have a roll call, Mrs. Anderson, please?
Mrs. Dix?
Yes?
Ms. Gatto?
Yes.
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
And Mayor Silva?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
B, appoint Joseph Wilsbach, a full-time police officer at the pre-academy salary of $30,600 effective January the 5th, 2015.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any questions or comments? Mrs. Anderson, please.
Mrs. Dix?
Yes?
Ms. Gatto?
Yes.
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
And Mayor Silva?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Mr. Silva, before we move on, just want to make mention that with the appointment of those two officers, I believe, Chief, we're now at a full complement of filling all of our open vacancies. Okay, great.
That's 49, correct? Yes. Thank you. C, appoint Susan Bolasaro as the Township of Hamilton Municipal Alliance Coordinator effective July 1, 2014, at $2,000 annually to be paid quarterly from the 2014 Municipal Alliance Grant as recommended by the Atlantic County Municipal Alliance Coordinator.
So
Roger,
moved.
I'd like to discuss this before it gets moved. What's on the agenda?
It's moved, so I'll second it so we can have
What's on
discussion.
what's on the agenda?
Questions or comments now?
What's on the agenda does not match the email that came from the county. This is a 6-month appointment only terminating December 31st, and it's for the payment of $1,000 for having served over the last 6 months. The county, through its alliances, makes the decision of who the members are and who the coordinator will be. This is only because apparently there was a break in service. So it's not an appointment, it's really like a 6-month appointment for $1,000. I have read the authorized payment for the coordinator stipend for Susan, as she has been running the alliance since July 1st. She is authorized to be paid for the first and second quarters, July to December 2014, in the amount of $1,000. Any questions or concerns, please call me. Thanks. Charles O. Curley, CADC Alliance Coordinator, Atlantic County Division of Health. So I think we need to amend the motion, and I'll propose it as an amendment to indicate it's a Alliance Coordinator, July 1 to December 31, 2014, at $1,000.
Go ahead, Cindy.
This was a recommendation based on Mr. Curley's email. That was his recommendation or authority to pay her for the first and second quarter of the fiscal year grant. It is my understanding that Susan is going to be the Alliance Coordinator. She has already met with the volunteers and is organizing the next quarter or biannually meeting moving forward. So I believe this is his recommendation. He's just authorizing all of the payments.
Well, I think
Future
that,
payment.
I think it should be reflected what's on here, and if there's a confirmation through the Alliance at a future point that she's been officially named by the Alliance membership, that she will be the coordinator, then that can be approved by this board to issue the payment at that time.
Did you speak with Charles and he said that she's going to be the coordinator?
We've had numerous conversations in reference to her, his recommendation for her to be the Alliance Coordinator.
Okay, so this recommendation is coming to us via you, the CFO, making that recommendation based on your conversations.
Well, I wouldn't make that recommendation to appoint her as the Alliance Coordinator.
Just to
That-
pay her.
You have to do that.
Okay.
And it is his recommendation. The email was intended to authorize the payment, as he has done with most of all of the payments moving forward since this grant started.
Mike, do you have any additional words?
Are you saying that
No, I don't have anything
there,
to add.
oh, I'm sorry. She's going to receive 1,000 now and 1,000 in the future, or it's?
This $1,000 is to cover from July 1st until December 31st,
Okay.
which is the first and second quarter of the grant. The grant it's a fiscal year grant. It goes from July 1st to June 30th of 2015.
Oh, okay.
But isn't this the first time a staff member has ever been an active participant and receiving of this money instead of one of the other volunteers who gets involved with the Municipal Alliance and then is it named as the coordinator and that person gets the money?
The coordinator in the past have been an outside person, but they have always been awarded a stipend for doing
The outside
this.
person has, that's my
Yeah.
point. That's exactly my point. So
Yeah.
there could be an outside person who is involved, who would step up and want to do this, and based on what's being done here, could preclude that opportunity for someone who maybe is unemployed. And
Well-
that's the whole issue to me.
Well, I believe that,
They don't want to volunteer anymore. Is that
Yes.
accurate? Yes.
and we have to be compliant with this grant or we're going to lose the money.
I know.
So,
Any other questions?
I support the motion on the table.
Have a motion and a
Second.
second. Any other questions? Mrs. Anderson, let's have a roll call on this.
Going back to this, Amy made the motion to do it, right?
Right?
Right, and Judy?
Rodney, no, actually, Rodney made it, I seconded.
Initially,
And-
yes.
Aline interrupted the motion and second process.
Yes, I did.
Eileen made a motion to amend, which was not seconded.
Correct.
The original motion is on the table.
Right. So we're getting a roll call for it now.
Where'd Cindy go? Cindy. I believe the papers you gave me said that it was to be $2,000 for the thing. He's just authorizing $1,000 payment now?
for this payment, yes.
Right,
2,000 is the annual, Joan, on this.
Correct.
right. Effective July the 1st of 2014 at $2,000 a year.
2,000 a year, but this is only a $1,000 payment, that's correct.
Right.
That was
But
my-
the motion is to appoint her starting July 1 of this year at $2,000 a year.
Yes.
Correct, thank you. Mrs. Dix?
I raised my objection. I don't think it's the right thing to do, and I have to vote no.
Ms. Gatto?
Yes.
Mr. Gouchard?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes,
Mayor Silva?
Yes,
4-1.
thank you. D, appoint Samuel Velez, a full-time temporary truck driver laborer at $15 per hour, not to exceed 11 months, effective December the 16th, 2014.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any other questions or comments? Mrs. Anderson, please.
Mrs. Dix?
Yes?
Ms. Gatto?
Yes.
Mr. Gouchard?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
yes,
Mayor Silva?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
E, accept the resignation of Michael Petusky as Emergency Management Coordinator effective January 1, 2015.
Reluctantly make that.
No,
that motion.
reluctantly second.
can we refuse it? No.
Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, I have a question. This is a 3-year appointment, and this is the end of year 2. Does that make, hand down, please. Does that make an unexpired term of 1 year for some other
That's right,
appointee?
someone will be
Because
appointed.
it's through Homeland Security, so it's a 3-year term. Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
The person that's selected will finish out the last year of it. Okay.
I think we need a check on that. I believe it's 3 years from when they're appointed, period.
Yeah, it's 3 years from when he appointed, correct.
Right,
So
it's
there's-
not an
No,
unexpired term.
No, there's
Okay.
1 year left from it, correct.
No, she's saying the opposite of
Well,
what we're
she's saying-
saying.
So the new person will be appointed for 3
3
years, is what
Right.
Joan is saying. We'll handle that at reorg.
Correct.
A
those in favor?
reorganization.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye,
Opposed? carries. 10 approvals, December 1st, 2014 regular meetings,
So moved.
minutes. Motion is
Second.
second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed, motion carries. C, what happened to B?
It flew away.
B, payrolls and bills totaling $1,056,164.82.
So moved.
Second.
We have a roll call, Mrs. Anderson?
Mrs. Dix?
Yes.
Miss Gatto?
Yes.
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mayor Silva?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
I know, Joan, we're giving you a workout tonight. We're just getting you ready for reorg. When you're there,
You're gonna drive me to drink?
nah, we can't do
Here, I'll
that.
share. Deer Park.
Reports, Mr. Administrator.
Nothing to add to my written report.
Thank you. Mr. Solicitor.
I'm pleased to announce that I have nothing to report.
I have a couple questions for him. Mr. Sandman, I've been reviewing financial disclosures, and I would urge that you will counsel all boards and commissions on properly filling out the financial disclosures regarding people who live in their house and work, and all real estate in New Jersey owned. It all has to be listed, and I have a number of disclosures I have reviewed that are incomplete. So I'm recommending that there be some message sent to make sure people understand what they have to put on there. There may be a misunderstanding, and I'll allow that as a concept that they missed.
Whose obligation is it to review them, Mr. Sandman? The financial disclosure that we fill out?
Any citizen.
Who's responsible? Well, first of
Is
all,
this the,
It goes
Deanne?
through the state.
doesn't it go through the state?
Yeah, it's electronic.
it goes to the state, sure. But if people have any questions, they can feel free to call me and I can assist them.
Well, it'd be better to avoid the embarrassment of someone else raising the issue. Two other things. The reason I mentioned about insurance earlier was because I reviewed something and the lost payee was incorrect. And so I just, again, it's just details. I know some people like to call it minutia. And the third thing is, I believe it was in September, I said about the coin drops. And I said about, do we get a copy of the permit? And the answer was no, we have no interest in it. As a matter of regulation at Department of Transportation, they do not permit coin drops on holiday weekends. So when there's a coin drop on a holiday weekend, there cannot be a permit out there. And I'm concerned about the liability falling back on the township because it's on streets that go through our town, and we all know about what I commented earlier about Mr. Zlotnick. The door to the courthouse is always open. If there's an incident where it's unpermitted and they're out there anyway, we're all going to get hit with that shotgun. So that's the 3 points I want to make to you. I think it's a small thing, a matter of minutes to stop and ask to see a permit. Whether it's gas company open the street, they have the permit in the truck. If you're doing a coin drop, your permit is supposed to be on site. Both cases are exactly the same. That's all. Thank you.
And thank you, Bob.
Beg your pardon?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Engineer.
Thanks, Mayor. I have nothing to add to my written report.
Okay. Township Committee members, Judy?
I was noticing the other day when I was at my daughter and son-in-law's house, is that the lake was under control, although behind their house was a virtual pond from all that water that was going on. So I'd like to congratulate Brett again for his, control of the lake and taking the bull by the horn each time to see that there is going to be a big storm. He meets it head on. So, thank you. I read something a little disturbing here. I know you probably all have read the Atlantic County Press, Atlantic Press, and a Atlantic County pay-to-play rule was violated by the Sheriff Ballas. receiving a $4,600 contribution from Fort Scott, which that's not a good thing, because I know we have had Fort Scott in the past, and I'm hoping that whatever happens from January 4th, that we can address this problem. There is apparently, they're not allowed to represent Atlanta County for 4 years. So that's a big thing. I was like shocked to see this. So I'm just passing it on for our edification.
Roger?
First of all, I'd like to certainly thank all the people that expressed their condolences for the sickness and ultimate, unfortunate death of my brother. It's been a long, actually a relative short, serious sickness, but I appreciate your condolences. I'd like to, at the last meeting, I believe it was the last meeting, we had the Assemblyman Brown here, and he mentioned the efforts on his part to bring to the State Department of Transportation the concerns that many of you had about our roads. I would just like to point out, in doing that, there was a form that was provided, and the township is currently looking at it. But I would also like to point out that, oh, and by the way, we're encouraged to work with the South Jersey Transportation Planning Authority. I would like to point out that there is a mechanism for citizens to get their input in. It's called the Citizens Advisory Committee. And over the time that committee has been in existence, we now have a form which anyone can fill out. And it just covers all kinds of transportation-related areas. Problems with handicap or physically challenged, bicycles, pedestrians, safety, a whole host of things. And when it is completed, the Citizens Advisory Committee gives it their consideration. I would certainly suggest that that be anyone who submits something also talk with the township. You don't have to, but certainly the more people involved in this, the more significant this would be. And I'd like to point out that these citizens advisory committees are actually supposed to be all over the country. As part of the Transportation Act, communities, and I believe they're around metropolitan areas, are supposed to have citizens advisory committees. In many cases, though, those committees are not active. In fact, even in this area, the committee wasn't particularly active until recently. And I must say, in fact, the Citizens Advisory Committee was noted as an example for others to follow in the work that's been done. I might point out that we have a local resident here, Bob Campbell, who's the chairman of that, who was selected as the chairman. That's a committee for 4 counties in South Jersey. We have the mechanism. We're going to use it as problems come up, and I would encourage all of you that believe you have problems that are worthy of attention. Feel free to contact myself or Bob or the staff so that we can appropriately document them. That's all I had.
Thank you, Rodney. Aileen?
Oh, did I just mention one other thing? Aileen. Yeah, I do. Just want to point out the fact that this will be Aileen's last session on her current term. Certainly, there's no question that you've had an impact.
Thank you.
And that you've made a contribution and you've had a number of good ideas. I just want to thank you, as I'm sure all of us do, for the effort you put in, and wish you the best in the future. So, all right, thank you.
Aileen?
Judy, you just mentioned pay-to-play. There was a pay-to-play ordinance adopted here. The last time I checked, because I obviously been on the state's website a lot lately, pay-to-play for Hamilton Township has never been filed with the Secretary of State's office, so it's never been perfected, and in my opinion, it therefore is not in effect. So pay-to-play is not in effect in Hamilton Township. With that, I will read this. On December 31, 2014, I will conclude over 37 years of public service as a sworn public official serving on 5 different boards. Add to that the years of attending meetings and asking questions of the sitting officials on many more boards. Each of us has our own thought process, way of thinking through and reaching conclusions. I come from the baby boom era. Our president was assassinated. The assassination of national figures of Martin Luther King and Robert F. Kennedy are other tragic events in our memory. It is those events early in life which influenced our later actions. Words clear in my memory were spoken in the eulogy of Robert Kennedy. Some men see things as they are and say why. I dream of things that never were and say why not. To me, these words tell us to keep trying to make things better for all our people. In spite of the hurdles and obstacles placed before us, don't give up. I have tried to make a difference. Many will say I have. Now it's your turn to step up and participate in your government. You too can make a difference. It's been an honor to represent the people of Hamilton Township. Thank you.
Amy?
I was prepared.
First of all, I wanted to, I know he doesn't want us to say anything, but I really can't let the meeting go on without it. Deputy Chief Patuski has resigned and is retiring and is, going off to do some other great things, and he's just been such an asset to our township and is a wonderful hometown guy. I know we'll still be seeing him out in the streets helping everybody he possibly can, while he's maybe hitting some golf balls and doing some other fun stuff. But I really couldn't let the meeting go by without recognizing it, and I know he'll probably hate it, Chief, but I don't really care. Yeah, we'll fire him.
I certainly would like to echo that.
And in honor of Mr. Mayor's tie, I want to wish everybody a happy holiday and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, as this is our last meeting, so we'll look forward to January. And Aline, this is your last meeting, and certainly has been a very interesting time on committee. And we on committee all wanted to recognize you. So, Mr. Mayor?
Amy, please sit down. Roger, please sit down. I had specifically asked Lisa that I did not want any recognition.
Well,
I'm not going to accept it, so please sit down and let's carry on.
Fine, Aileen. I think you did bring an interesting perspective and challenge to committee, and we'd be wrong if we didn't recognize the fact that this is presented to Aileen Dix, Committeewoman, Township of Hamilton, 2012 to 2014, and it has your badge on it.
Thank you.
And it is
Welcome.
tradition to give something to every outgoing committee person, so we can't break tradition, Aline. So good luck to you in the future.
Thank you. I'd like to remind everyone that the reorganization is January the 5th, 2015 at 6 o'clock, not 6:30, 6 o'clock. Generally a long meeting, reorg, and then a secondary meeting after it. The fact that they mentioned my wife's tie, I can't get out of the house without a Christmas tie on. In fact, if there were more meetings, I have about 4 or 5 more of these ties. I'll probably wear them until I get tired of looking at them, but they're certainly enjoyable, and you get a lot of interesting comments from them. With that, I'd like to open it up to the public. Mr. Campbell.
Mr. Mayor, I only have a couple of things real fast. Bob Campbell, Hamilton Township. Rodney made some good points. There is now a committee called the Citizens Advisory Committee, which is a subcommittee of the South Jersey Transportation Planning Organization, which regulates and determines where the many dollars are being spent by the federal government within states and within counties. We're pleased to have been part of the CAC, which is the Citizens Advisory Committee, for Salem County, Cumberland County, Cape May County, and Atlantic County. And we have been recognized now as a really established organization. There are three parts of the planning organization. The first part is the policy board, which is the elected officials, and they're the ones that vote on ultimately on the projects. The TAC committee, which is the technical advisory committee, is the committee that reviews all the projects, and the CAC is the committee that takes public testimony and requests. I noticed with some interest there was some safety issues that were brought up tonight on Park Road. I have a few safety issues myself that I think are tangent to this particular committee. Although I am the chairman of the committee, I will not put anything in on it. But there are now a motive that you can use to go to the CAC. If you go online to the South Jersey Transportation Organization, and you will find CAC, which is the Citizen Action Committee or Citizen Advisory Committee, and there is a form now that you can fill out. You can be John Jones, Bob Campbell, you can be Township Committee persons, you can even be our engineer. As a matter of fact, the county engineer for Salem County recommended to two of the mayors in Salem County to bring their requests for safety particular requirements that they were noticing in their community, which are really bad. The county engineer suggested that they come to the CAC because we can present it through the channels, and the TAC committee took that. When we did present that, the TAC committee took it immediately and are working on it, which proves to me that a single individual citizen has a voice. You can have a voice now, and it will go right through. You don't have to worry about it being hidden or ducked. And the form is that you fill out is a form on what your problem is, what you detect the problem is. For instance, it could be a highway safety program, or it could be a road that's really in deplorable condition. It doesn't have to be a federal highway. It can be anywhere in your community. I'm not saying that the federal government will take care of it, but eventually it will get some kind of action. And so the people from the municipalities, anybody that wants to have an extra group of people working on your problems. For instance, if there was a problem, if somebody had a problem with Park Road, you could go to the form, fill out the form, send it in to us. It'll be brought up almost immediately at our next meeting or on the next agenda, no matter what it is, and it will be acted upon. So for the people of Hamilton Township and the people of Atlantic County, in particular, where I happen to represent, but I represent all four counties now, as well as Rodney and a few other people from our area. If you want to put that in, you can certainly put it in, and we'll act on it immediately. I'm very, very pleased that we are now getting recognition, and a lot of the municipal officials from the counties. And by the way, John Peterson from Atlantic County is probably one of the best, and he is our chairman. John Peterson is a great, great guy.
Is that the guy that just retired from the county?
No, he didn't retire.
No, he didn't.
John Peterson, he's been
our
with the county.
commitment. And by the way, Mr. Sutton is the chairman, the freeholder Sutton is the chairman of the policy board. Mr. Sutton has done an outstanding job on that board. I'd like to say a couple words about Ms. Dix. I've known Ms. Dix for probably almost 40 years of my life. Some of the things that Ms. Dix does are, in my opinion, not good things. I think she brings up too many things that are really minute, as she said, minutia. But you got to say one thing about her. She's the hardest working woman I've ever met in my life. She really works hard at what she does. And sometimes it's not good things, but that's her opinion. And if she wants to go ahead and do that, she can do that. I've had many, many disagreements with Ms. Dix over the years, and probably will continue to have a lot of disagreements. She has served the township for 3 years, and she has served the MUA and other bodies for many years, and she deserves some credit for that, and I'll give you credit, Aileen. You did serve the township in quite a few ways, and quite a few good things that you brought up. I think quite a few bad things too, but that's my opinion, as you have your opinion. I wish you the best of luck as it's go back to the citizens sitting out in the aisle. It'll be somewhat different again, and I wish Mr. Our newly elected township committeeman who's sitting in the back room, I wish him the best of health and good luck when he sits down and serves. Mr. Kurtz, I think, will make a fine township committeeman. I thank you for the opportunity to speak, and please, citizens, get in that application for whatever it might be, a bike path, anything. Put it into us and let us do the job for you. Thank you again.
Thanks, Bob. Anyone
Thank you.
else?
Anna Schleifer. I've been living here, January, it'll be 11 years I've been living in Mays Landing, and being a military wife, I've lived through the East Coast. And one of the things that my heart is really out for on Main Street are the businesses. I desire any time a business opens, I don't care what it is, I have such a heart for it to prosper. And it breaks my heart when it doesn't make it through. And so, with that being said, being that I am military, I don't know if many of you are aware, we have a new business cafe that's on the corner, and sadly, I don't know how many people have gone through that cafe, but he is a veteran, he is a Marine, yay. And when you go in, he has his Marine Corps flag, and his name is Don. And I only have so much money I can spend every week, to try to support us. I do the bakery or whatever else is on the street. But I really would like to encourage you to try to visit him and encourage him. And if you're a veteran, bring your veteran friends out there. We're always talking about how we can improve. I mean, I really do. I did it with Chris. I'm always giving him ideas because I travel so much and I visit a lot of little quaint towns, and I know what makes them kind of go, what I look for when I visit a town. I'm always looking for shops and gift shops and places to eat, and I think, we have some, we have the flower shop, we have several things. I think we have too many hair salons, but that's just my opinion. We have too many hair places. That's me, but okay. So, but I still hope they prosper. But I would like to see if maybe you all could go visit Don and encourage him. He's really a great person, and he's doing things that he's open for suggestions. And I even suggested, I said, how about, working with the veterans? And he says, oh, absolutely, whatever. So I hope that maybe we could make that place a go and maybe not see someone else. Not that I don't want anyone, but, that just means he's successful. Just like, the other eating place that we have, Brownie Squared. He's made it through. I know you have a year that can be tough, and Don realizes that, but we are in the winter time, and it is tough. He's opened up kind of late, and he knows that. He said, I opened in but he's a neat guy. So I really, my heart goes out to all the businesses. I always want to see them prosper. It hurts when I see them close down because I don't want that. I mean, I'm a caring person. I want people to succeed in what their endeavors are. So I just thought I'd give you, a little spiel on his behalf. Hoorah, Semper Fi. But this Marine wife tries to go there as much as I can. But like I said, I only can support so much. And but he's open for whatever suggestions, and just want to give it a little bit of a hoorah.
He's
there.
a smart man. He's also a graduate of the military academy.
Yes, he is. Oh, yes, he
Yes,
is.
the Naval
He's an
Academy.
officer. Yeah,
Yes.
he's a veteran. So, anyway, thank you so much, and Eileen, thank you so much for being. And like Mr. Campbell said, that's what this is all about. Anytime we should be able to disagree and agree. That's what America's about. That's why we have that freedom to argue and disagree and agree, and you brought your opinion just like everybody else does. If not, we can't all have the same opinion. That'd be boring. So you've made it exciting. I like that. So anyway, congratulations, and I wish I had your mind, your memory. This woman knows You can ask her. I'll ask her something. Oh, I remember what I called her the other day for a phone number, and she knew the number of Ed. I asked for Ed's phone number. I wanted to see if he was okay. 1964 was the year I graduated, or something. I mean, or something like that. Like, I knew I could call her. She'd know it. Anyway, thank you so much.
You're welcome, ma'am.
And blessings to you. May you continue to prosper. I just speak a blessing over you, that you will be successful in all your endeavors, and that you will have an amazing, God has an amazing new destiny and journey for you. It's going to be exciting, a new exciting thing for you. It's for all of you. And Merry Christmas to all
Thank
of you.
you.
Merry
Happy
Christmas,
New Year
Anna.
to all of you.
Thanks, Anna.
Everyone back here, too.
Anyone else?
Thank you, Anna.
Good evening. My name's Ed Pugh. I live on Dracera Street over in the Cologne section. And I'm coming here with a little bit of a problem, and I hope for some guidance or assistance. My property butts up to the Blue Heron Pines Golf Course. And there seems to be a discrepancy with the boundaries back there. I walked to the rear of my property the other day. They cut down 21 trees. These trees are at least 20 inches in diameter. 8 of those trees are on my property, 10 are on my neighbor's property. Only 2 were on the golf course properties. And I bring this here because the rear property line is also the Galloway Township, Hamilton Township border. So I'm looking to see what can be done to confirm these boundaries.
Don't you have a survey?
Pardon me?
Didn't you have a survey when you bought your home?
Absolutely.
Has it been marked?
Yes, it
Does it
has.
have markers on it?
Yes, it does.
Are the rear markers also set? They usually skip those.
I have the survey right here. I can give this.
But as far as the concrete monument or the iron rod in the ground with the surveyor's license number on it, is that at the rear property line?
Yes.
Okay, then that's
And on
it.
the westerly side of my property, there's a nail in their cart path, which is my actual rear marker. It shows on the survey that the concrete marker was set 5 feet in from that because they didn't want to disturb the cart path. On the easterly side, it's off the cart path, and they're also on the easterly side, they're using it as a dumping ground it's a vacant lot next to me. And they're using that as a dumping ground.
Bob,
Pinelands.
comments for the gentleman?
I mean, you have a remedy. If someone comes onto your land and removes your trees, that's trespass. You have a civil remedy. You're entitled to damages. And simple question of proving the boundary lines and the fact that these trees were on your property. So I would urge you to get counsel and seek your civil remedies.
But I'm also, not only are they crossing my property, they're crossing the township border.
Well, that
So-
doesn't matter.
Well, it does matter to me.
Well, it matters to you because it's your property. The fact that one of your property boundaries is the division line between 2 townships, 2 municipalities, doesn't change your remedy at all, and doesn't involve the township at all.
So you're saying I need to go out and pay for an attorney?
Well, what if he reports it to the Pinelands, because you can't just start cutting trees down?
That may be a remedy as well, but I'm not skilled enough in that area to tell them. I'm not going to give them an opinion. There's nothing that,
See, my dilemma is I don't have thousands of dollars to go up against a big corporation. When Hanson owned that property, it was never a problem. Now that Ron Drahorsky's owned it, they're constantly doing different things back there, cutting trees down, moving things around.
They
The
don't know.
dumping issue, that's only going to attract rodents.
Have you confronted them on this?
I spoke to them a number of times, and they keep ignoring me. Now, I called them on Saturday once I realized what was going on, and the guy says, well, I'm going to look into it, I'll call you right back. Well, now, that's Saturday, today's Monday, I haven't heard anything from them.
I would definitely reach out to the Pinelands if I were wearing your shoes.
I would
Because
follow
you
up
cannot
legally.
be cutting trees down in the Pinelands. Things have site plans, they restricted the amount of clearing, et cetera, and it sounds like there's a violation. And these are new people, so they don't know the Pinelands like we know the Pinelands, like the prior owner of Blue Heron would have known the Pinelands.
Yeah. Hanson's would never do
Yeah.
that.
Judy was on the Pinelands Commission.
Yeah, I would, you just go on to the website, Pinelands Commission, New Jersey, and that'll direct you to a telephone and state your case, and I'm sure there'll be someone down to look it over and, help out with the violations, or at least redirect it to who they should go to. That's a violation, the dumping and the cutting
And
down of trees.
both, yeah.
The dumping's not on my property, so I can't really do anything about it. That's
Yeah,
why
but they're
I
not
thought-
allowed to dump either.
I'm sorry?
They're
It's
not
illegal
allowed to dump.
dumping.
At a citizen, you can do something
You
about
can
that.
report it, yeah.
You can report it.
Mr. Solicitor or Administrator, can we call the Pinelands on behalf of a constituent complaint?
On a dumping issue, certainly.
Okay. Can we do that to
On a
help?
tree cutting issue, it would have to be determined where the property line is.
Okay,
But that is an individual property right. That's not something that you can do.
right. But we can call on behalf of the dumping?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, the-
Doesn't matter, it's dumping.
It's a vacant lot, and if the property line continues straight through, he's pushing his debris, it's leaves, trees, what have you, onto the vacant lot, which is in Hamilton Township.
Yeah, and I don't think it matters where the dumping is. I mean, it's our resident making the complaint, so. What's that? Well, I would say, let's get
It
the
is a-
gentleman's information, and that way you can be in touch with him.
We also, next to the vacant lot is a paper street of Odessa Avenue,
Oh, it does, so.
which runs out to Tilton Road, which I guess would cross the township line. So,
Yeah.
Contact information.
Definitely.
While he's doing that, is there anybody else in the audience who wants to speak?
Move to close the public portion?
Second.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Mrs. Anderson, you want to read the resolution so we can move it?
Okay. Be it resolved by the Township Committee of the Township of Hamilton that this meeting be adjourned to an executive session to discuss collective bargaining, PBA sergeants, and Teamsters collective bargaining update, which are exempt from public discussion pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law. Be it further resolved that the governing body will reconvene in public session and confirm the results of the executive session if there is a majority consensus for action to be taken on the matters tonight.
So moved.
Is there no other items to be added to that tonight?
What?
Is there nothing else to be added to that, just those two things? Nothing else?
Only those two things.
Nothing else?
That's all that's here. That's all
All
that's advertised,
All
correct?
right. No, I'm just asking because things don't get advertised. All right.
I have a motion on the table, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Motion is second. Any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Are we going in?
Outside into the lobby, I announced the fact that that the committee was coming back into the open session. A number of people were out there, and a number of them have come back in. I made the announcement publicly to anybody loud enough that it could be heard, and they are the only ones that responded.
Okay, so we're now back in executive session now. I mean, out of executive session, back in a regular portion. And what's your pleasure on the collective bargaining agreement with the mainland PBA Local 77 Sergeants Unit?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move that we approve the collective bargaining agreement with Mainland PBA Local 77 Sergeants Unit, January 1, 2014 through December 31, 2016.
All right, second?
I have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Mrs. Anderson, please.
Mrs. Dix?
Yes?
Ms. Gatto?
Yes.
Mr. Gouchard?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
And Mayor
Yes.
Silva? All yes and carried.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Meeting adjourned.